Today's topic is on the new ethics interpretation by the AICPA Peak Committee. That's a Professional Ethics Executive Committee. When this first came out, many people did not think it had much impact on their practices. As we read it, we find out that it could have a very large impact on practices. It is effective for July 1st, 2019. It only affects relationships that require independence, and that is important to note. So if you have a client or if you're in a situation where independence is not required, this is not going to affect you. When you look at the interpretation, hosting is defined as non-attest services that involve the member accepting responsibility for any of the following, and these three items are what's listed. Acting as the sole host of the financial or non-financial information system of the attest client, and that's really where we're going to focus, but continuing on, taking custody of storing an attest client's data or records whereby the data or records are available only to the attest client from the member, such that the attest client data or records are otherwise incomplete. And then the third area is providing electronic security or backup services for an attest client's data or records. Keeping client data or records on behalf of the client can get a little more complex because all of us keep records of our clients. The key here is, are we the primary holder of the records? So if we have the records for the client, and the client does not have the records and they're relying on us to keep them, that will be a problem. Before anybody goes crazy on this, there are two relatively simple solutions to this. You cannot be the sole custodian of these records, but you can have them as long as the client has availability. There are two ways to have availability for the clients. The first way would be if you just took what you did a backup, give it back to the client, could be an accountant copy or a regular backup, and the client restored that on their system. Therefore, they are keeping the records and they have the records and there's not a problem. So I have one client that I was doing the records and the solution was simply they spent $200 and bought QuickBooks, and that solved the problem. The other solution could be going to a service that's online like Xero or QuickBooks Online. Therefore, they have passwords, you have passwords, you can both access the files and they have the records, so if something were to happen to you, they would be able to have the records for themselves. There is a little bit of a twist here that causes a lot of issues, and these are the people who are saying this is more form over substance and maybe the AICPA has gone too far. But who has the license for that QuickBooks Online? If the CPA has the license for that QuickBooks Online, then you are hosting. If the client has the license for the QuickBooks Online, then you're not. And the logic for that is simple. If the CPA gave up his license, the client would not have their records. Where this is advanced into modern technology is on portal services. If the client is relying on you keeping it on your portal for their records, that's also considered hosting. So what the AICPA has strongly recommended is that when you put things on a portal, you put it up for a limited amount of time. The AICPA has not given us a whole lot of direction on that, and as many times we ask questions, I don't think they will give us a lot of direction. The standard says it must be within a reasonable amount of time, and that's all it says. They did say that they think a couple days is reasonable and more than a year is not reasonable. The last question I want to address, and this is really where everybody asks, what if I give them a hard copy of the QuickBooks General Ledger? Is that acceptable? And the standard says no, it's not. As far as the accounting system, if it's being kept electronically, you've got to give them an electronic version of that system. If it's not being kept electronically, it's being kept on paper like a depreciation schedule, then you can give it to them on paper.